I am your host, Nicole Will, and we're so happy you're here as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside older adults, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversation. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the willGather podcast. Today, my guest is Anna Marie Frank. She is a certified doctor of traditional naturopathy, a certified brain health practitioner, and a worksite wellness specialist. She's so passionate about helping others increase their brain function and physical health, incorporating emotional and energetic support into our wellness practices. She is also the founder of Happy Whole You. She is a formulator of 3 brain nutraceuticals, a published author, a life guide coach, and a holistic health advocate. Today, we are talking about how mindset is everything, but how do we actually rewire our brain? We, as caregivers, care partners, and older adults, have so much that's happening in our life, and there's so much change. How do we really choose the life that we want? What holds us back? Educating us as we are shifting our thinking, and we are constantly being inundated with information. Constantly, how do we determine what we bring in and what we download? How we can look at the big picture of things and bring awareness into our day. We look at how these modalities can be cost effective, how there is hope in making these changes, and how encouraging that these stories can be, and the great impact we can have on our lives. Here is my interview with Anna Marie Frank. This is a topic I've been wanting to talk about. I'm so glad we've connected. You are the perfect person to speak to mindset, what we can do, looking at other modalities, and encouraging people to be encouraged about what they can implement in that wellness umbrella. So, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to help share some good tips and tricks.
No, and when we talked before, it was on the phone, but now our listeners can't see. We're meeting in Zoom. It's so fun to see you face to face, looking at those caregivers, specifically those older adults. That's going to be our lens that we're going to talk about today. But first, can you tell us more about you, what you do, how you got here?
Yeah, I am a doctor of traditional naturopathy. Everything under the wellness umbrella, I try to support people with through holistic health modalities. I've combined actually old school Chinese medicine with high tech pieces of equipment at my wellness center, all the way to using plant stem cell therapy and, all different ways to support one's brain health and simultaneously decrease body inflammation. And the reason I started doing this in the way that I practice is because ultimately I had to heal my own brain. I suffered with depression, very high strung, high stress, working all the time, always doing for others, feeling like I was always letting other people down. Just essentially, I think what a lot of women feel, right? Like
Mhm.
we wear ourselves too thin and burn the candle at both ends. But I realized that I was doing a lot of healthy things, right? But there was also unhealthy things I was doing. And so really honing in what I could do to ultimately live a happy whole life, because I think that's all what we all want, right? Like we all
Mhm.
want to truly be happy and just be confident and in our everyday life. And so, yeah, it took me quite a few years, but I healed myself. And then now I help other people essentially do the same thing.
It's so needed. And you described all of those emotions that so many women face, but so many caregivers face, where they're really stuck in whether it's that, we call it that sandwich generation, where you're not only trying to care for yourself, you're could be at the height of your career, but you're also maybe raising children, and then you're taking care of mom and dad, and you're just being pushed and pulled in so many directions, and that's just so exhausting.
It really is. And, for everybody listening out there, like it's okay to not be perfect in every
Mm-hmm.
area of your life, right? I don't believe that there's ever such a thing as a perfect balance, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly giving and taking and that ebb and flow of life. And so, I mean, I know ultimately, like if I'm kicking butt at work, I'm probably not doing as great in another area. I'm not with my kids. I'm not, helping at school. But I'm doing the best I can. And so I think that that's where we really need to shift that mindset. Instead of thinking I have to do it all, we
Mm-hmm.
can say I'm choosing to do all that I can,
Mm-hmm.
and doing my best is enough, right?
It is. You had mentioned before when we had spoke that you had experience working with older adults and caregivers. How did that experience then shape the message that you want to share with them? What did you process through with them?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I have like so much respect for caregivers. I just what they go through to help people towards their later years in their life, the giving nature that they have is incredible. Like it's so incredible how selfless they are. And what I learned very quickly is it's almost like they needed permission to like
Mm-hmm.
take care of themselves, right? Like they're over giving themselves, to everyone else. And I found it really interesting, that we talked about mindset. We did this thing locally where we do the caring for the caregiver day, and so my company went in and we provided guided meditations, and they would do these different therapies for about 20 minutes each, and then we would talk with the caregivers about things that they can implement to just essentially fill their cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that as a caregiver, it's super important that one, you fill your cup first, because that way you're not burning the candle at both ends and you can truly give to another person. And then the other thing I found interesting, more and more clients are coming in that are, they're at the height of their career, or getting closer to retirement, and now they're taking care of their parents, and that is very, very hard on them. And so I've seen my parents actually take care of my grandparents now, and my grandpa has now passed, but the stress that that puts on a family. And so just really giving yourself permission to add in some good things into your life, such as, like, for example, like exercise. If you can't get to the gym, fine. Let's not beat ourselves up about that. But you know what? Turn up a good song and take 5 minutes to dance and get your heart rate up, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's just do what we can,
Yes.
versus like being all or nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing I gathered from the caregivers is that it's almost like they need permission to take care of themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
just because you're taking care of yourself doesn't mean that you're neglecting somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that you need this time for you right now.
Yeah, I love that distinction. Just because we're taking care of ourselves doesn't mean that we're neglecting the other person. It's that they can live together. We can do both, but we tend to forget about what our needs are because we're so focused on everything else that we need to get done.
Yeah, and let's be honest, everybody. We know, and science is showing us, that when we take care of our brain health and our physical health, we are less likely to need someone else to take care of us in our later years,
Mm-hmm.
right? At that earlier age. So
Mm-hmm.
the more we can take care of ourselves, we are essentially preventing our children's generation from having the weight. I don't want to say it's a burden, but
Mm-hmm.
having the weight, because this is, taking care of our elders is just a part of the natural evolution of this lifetime, right? And of
Mm-hmm.
our lifetimes, lightening the load for them. And that's where it's important that we take care of our own health, and we have that responsibility to take care of our health first and foremost. And we've really gotten away from that in so many ways in this country. So just in the long haul, taking care of yourself will really prevent future generations from having that weight on them.
That's so true. And we'll talk through what some of those things are if we're looking at those bigger topics, which is that wellness umbrella, what we can do. But also, we hear the term like mindset is everything. But if we're going to start with that, how do we actually rewire our brain? How do we actually shift those messages that we're telling ourselves?
Yes. And this is like where it's tricky. And this is where working with like a mindset coach or somebody can be very, very helpful. And I teach a 6-week course. It's called Mindset Shift Course. And it's really fun to like explore this with other people because we all think the way we think. And there are these neural networks in our brain and they're programmed from like when we were like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so changing the rewiring of our brain can be challenging. But one way that can be very, very helpful is to, instead of using the word I have to, for 1 week, everybody say I choose to, right? So when we shift the words that we're repeating in our vocabulary, right? So I help people change not only the way they talk about their life, but how they see their life. And so we're changing I have to I choose to. Also, instead of thinking of all the stressful things, of all the things that, again, you're saying I have to do or what's not going good for you, taking another week to look at everything that is there for you, that is positive for you. Because when we get this tunnel vision of, looking for injustice, you're going to find injustice,
Yes,
right?
so true.
And if we get this tunnel vision of looking for, compassion and love all around us, we will see compassion and love all around us.
Yeah.
So if you could just do those two things to start shifting the rewiring of your brain as saying, I choose to do this versus I have to, and then looking for the good that's all around you versus looking at, oh gosh, this happened again, or blah, 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 right? Like, it's funny because I used to be the person that like would spill my coffee on me in the car and be like, oh my gosh, I'd go to work and be like, oh my gosh, I spilled my coffee on me. And then this person cut me off and it was like, blah, blah, blah. And I would just like complain about everything. Whereas now I'm like, if I spill coffee on myself, you guys, I'm a little bit clumsy. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting? Like, of course I spilt my coffee on me this morning. And then I'm like, and I laugh because I'm like, look at me. I'm spending $3 on a coffee. Look at the privilege of that right there alone when like,
Yes.
because I'm take out coffee. Like, so it's just really looking at the positive because we are all have
Mhm.
so many blessings in our life. And so it's just shifting to that gratitude mentality.
It is. There's a one thing too that I've tried to do is if something really hard happens, I'll say, what is this teaching me? Or what am I learning from it? Because then I'm shifting my thoughts into, okay, how am I going to grow or how am I learning? And,
Right.
I don't know.
No, that's so powerful.
So,
I mean, it really is. Looking for the lessons is huge versus just feeling defeated, right?
mhm,
Because everything is a lesson for us to grow on a
mhm,
personal level.
mhm,
I do want to throw this in here. So right now, during this time of COVID, you know what, COVID or not, right? Being a caregiver it's stressful. It is stressful
mhm,
for people. So here's the thing. When we are in what's called fight or flight mode, when our limbic system and amygdala in our brain are essentially on overdrive, you can feel like you're pushing all the way down on the gas pedal, but you're stuck in first gear and it's nothing but frustrating and stressful, right? So some
mhm,
people feel that. What happens though when we feed that fear by watching the news, by always constantly looking at the negative around us? We're constantly feeding that loop. So we stay in the fight or flight. Well, when we
mhm,
stay in our fight or flight mode, what happens is we cut off our prefrontal cortex from working properly. And your prefrontal cortex is your executive thinking. So, for example, because financial wellness is a huge one that, people don't like to talk about, but
mhm,
it's important. When you're constantly saying, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, right? You're constantly reiterating that you have this stress in your life, I don't have enough money. And that cuts you off from using your prefrontal cortex with what is possible with the money that I do have that I'm bringing in, and what am I doing with this money I'm bringing in, right? Versus just spending, 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 and you don't even think about it. You don't even look at it because you're like, I don't even want to think about it. It's just too much. But what's interesting is like when I've coached clients and they break down their finances, they actually realize one, things aren't as bad, or they don't have to be as bad as they are, but they didn't even realize where their money was falling through the cracks. So they stayed in this fight or flight mode, couldn't go to the prefrontal cortex to have executive thinking of, okay, how can I remedy this situation, right? Because we always have the power of choice. And so when we can lower our stress, we can shift into that prefrontal cortex and have more executive thinking to see the big picture of things and what's possible.
And that's the power of rewiring, because I did not know that there was that connection with the fight or flight. And then you're not able to step into that executive thinking to make those really sound decisions that we need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy, right?
It's so crazy. Oh my gosh, I love learning. This has been just having you be able to shift our perspective on that. We want the quick fix. I think our society is like, okay, I want to feel better in 30 minutes, or, have this happen right away. And we're looking for that, but we know that realistically that's not always possible. And how do we actually step into that urgency culture to choosing the life that we want? What holds us back from being able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember our brain is the strongest pharmacy on planet Earth. So you have to give yourself, your mind, and your body credit because it is incredible what it can do, first and foremost. So we all have to recognize our own greatness and the power and strength within all of us, because a lot of us have given that away. And fear is essentially what holds us back from everything. And fear is just change of it's what is quote unquote unknown, or what we haven't done. That's why we get uncomfortable when we do something new. That's why we meet new things with resistance, right? But you have to do things repetitively to make that change, right? So going back to, choosing what you get to do versus saying I have to. Yeah, when you say when you change your vocabulary to I choose, it's going to take multiple times. And some people have a little resistance to saying I choose this because like, oh, well, no, I have to. No, you really don't. But when they switch to the I choose, it gets uncomfortable because there's fear behind that, because then you realize you're the one that has the control and the power in your life. And there's no more blaming other people for it, right? Like, we are who we are today based on every single choice we've made up to this very moment. And we all come from different backgrounds, different situations, but ultimately we all had the power of choice. And so whether you choose to respond or react makes a big difference in where you're at in your life. But yeah, fear is such an illusion because, everything is okay and you can choose what you want.
Yeah. It's taking that personal ownership over our choices, because when you really think about it, have the choice in all the things that we participate in. And then it's that like personal accountability. Oh, I can't blame this on all these other things. And that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when we don't give our power away, right? Like the people that have done you wrong in your life, when you just let that go, because holding on to that is only hurting you. They've moved on. They're not even thinking about it, right? But when you hold on to that, you're only hurting yourself. But it's like, what is possible if you were to let that go, right? And so some people get stuck because they're just holding on to all these belief systems and patterns that have been programmed in them since they were younger. Can be based on things that have happened to them, something they inherited from their parents. Like we all have trauma and different things in our life. And so we will constantly do things to reiterate the fact that, I'm not good enough, or that person did this to me, or I'm just unlucky. So if you're someone that says, I'm unlucky, I'm unlucky, I'm unlucky, you are going to act and do things that make you be able to say, yeah, see, I am unlucky. Right? So paying attention to our patterns, and this is what I had to do to essentially heal my brain and reprogram. I had to get out of that victim mindset and quit doing the things that would reiterate the stupid programming I had of I'm not good enough, I'm unlucky, I'm always broke, like all these things. But yeah, when you own that, you have all the power. Every single person listening, you have the power. It's just getting started and being repetitive enough to where you start to rewire that brain.
Yeah, it's huge. And there's so many messages coming at us, whether it's online, social media, TV, all of that. And how do we determine what we're downloading and what we're taking in? And what are your thoughts on that? How do we,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, like shift that thinking? And you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but
Yeah. So ultimately, like everything that we are watching, that we are seeing, that we are ingesting, eating, that all of that is essentially downloading information in our body,
mhm.
right? So the biggest thing that we need to make sure we're doing is paying attention to the downloads that we're bringing in, right? So if you are, we'll say, against the vaccination, right? If you're against that, and it gets you going, you probably shouldn't watch news, right? Like you shouldn't watch certain news stations because that's just going to sit there and reiterate that anger, right? When you just gotta, there's some things that we just need to let go in terms of you can have your belief system and then someone else can have their belief system, but it's not your job to try to change the way that they believe, right? Like it's called coexisting, right? Like you can have your opinion, I can have my opinion, and we just respect each other and we don't shame each other based on what we're choosing, right? But paying attention to the very things you don't want in your life, if you are out and you can find yourself that you're seeking those things, right? Through the news, through social media. One of the biggest things you can do is one, unfollow people on social media that make you feel bad about yourself, right? Like if you are scrolling and you see a post and it's from somebody and you constantly are comparing yourself to them or you feel bad or whatever it is, you know what? Whatever. If it isn't bringing you joy and happiness, bye, right? Just cut it off. Same with the news, same with shows. Like I won't watch shows that depict killing. Like I won't. Like I don't watch any like thrillers, anything. Like because that I don't like that. I watch comedy, like things that bring me joy. Disney Channel. I'm like a grown woman that
That's
likes
so
Disney.
good.
So you know what I mean? Like it's just like paying attention to what you're bringing in because it's just everything you do again is going to reiterate that fear. It's going to reiterate what you don't want. So you have to
Mhm.
truly start shifting to plug yourself into the very things you want.
It's that whole idea of what we take in, what we consume just affects our physical health, our mental health, and being more mindful about what that is. Would you
Mhm.
say then, okay, if someone's like, I, as a caregiver, as an older adult, all of these changes are happening and I'm not quite sure what to do to start that process.
Mhm.
Could you give an example or walk us through what would that look like to just begin this new way of thinking?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, asking yourself, what is it that I truly want? Like out of this lifetime, who am I? And try to go deep, right? And that can be so hard for some people, but
Mhm.
just shedding light on it and starting to think about it is really powerful. The other thing that you can do is you can hire a coach. You can get a group of people together and do a book club and work on personal growth, right? Like start surrounding yourself with other people that are happy, that are bringing you joy, that it's like, oh gosh, I want to be more like that person.
Mhm.
And just starting to surround yourself with those types of people or those types of tools, right? Audiobooks, this podcast, picking up a paperback book and reading that, taking classes, right? There's so much remotely. So it's important that how whatever you do, you just start with reading 3 pages of a book a day, right? Just start with telling yourself, looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, I love you, I love you every day. And so like I just had a client who left. I think she's I would say she's not 75 yet, between 73, 74, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
Anyways, She just came in and we started talking, and she has suppressed emotions her entire life for all sorts of reasons, right? Like, whatever, doesn't matter. But what matters now is she's waking up to allowing herself to feel emotions, allowing herself to speak her truth, allowing herself to say, I want changes. I want to do different things. And it was funny because we were just finishing a conversation and she's like, you know what? It's never too late to change. You can always change. And I'm like, heck
Yeah.
yes. Right. So honestly, really starting with that mindset, especially the older generation, is you can choose to change. Right. And it's never too late, because I do get clients that are like, oh, well, I'm stuck in my ways and I'm old and da 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 da. I'm like, no, you're only as old as your mind allows you to think you are
So
old. Right.
true.
So again, what is possible? Having those conversations and just allowing the good to come into your life and seek it out.
Mm-hmm.
Seek it out, because it
Mm-hmm.
will be there for you when you start looking for it.
And it's that power of, I believe in this, where we can manifest what
Yes.
happens when we're focused on that. It's like you said, like seek out that good, seek out those positive things where you will then see that in your life.
Yeah, I mean it's so true. And here's the other thing is every thought that you have, so you talk about manifesting, like speaking out loud what you want, writing it down. Essentially, your thoughts, your words, and your actions all carry different frequency vibrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we know about frequencies is they always want to find their match. That's why if you tune in a radio station on your car, it sends a signal up into the universe, and then boom, it finds its match and you get that radio station that you desire. It's through
Mm-hmm.
frequency. And so when we start to shift the frequencies within us from what we think and how we speak, it literally will raise your vibration and attract the frequencies that you desire. And then the other really important piece to note for all of us is every thought you have can literally, there's actually research out there that shows how thinking and speaking to water will change when you freeze that water. It'll change how that water looks. So I always think of, when I think of this research, I always think of snowflakes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're so perfect and unique, each and every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about love and compassion and we speak that to water, or you could even say a plant, because they've done this before, and then you on the other side you speak nastiness and unkind words to water or a plant, what we know is that the water that has the positive love and compassion and the plant will grow beautifully, and the water will freeze in this beautiful formation. What we know about the negativity is the plant over 30 days will start to die, and then the water will freeze in some chaotic form. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what does that teach us? Well, ultimately, if through our thoughts and through our words we can change water or a living plant, guess what? You are mostly water. So
Mm-hmm.
every thought that you are thinking, every word that you are speaking is constantly programming the vibration of every cell in your body. And so again, we're so powerful, but we don't break it down. We don't think of it in that way.
At that cellular level. And it's true, wouldn't you say, that it's not only what we're telling ourselves, but then how we speak to other people? Would that be the same
Oh,
dynamic then?
okay, so I'll share with you guys something I do with clients. So they'll stand right in front of me, and I do this manipulative testing, essentially kinesiology or muscle testing, people call it. And what I'll do is they'll put their arm out, and I'll get a baseline of their strength. And then what I'll do is I close my eyes, I stand in front of them, and I can send them nothing but love and light. And they get stronger when I test them. If I stand in front of them and I close my eyes and I send them like negative energy, hate, bad words, their arm will drop.
Mm.
They get weaker. And this is just through me standing in front of them, thinking. I'm not saying out loud. This is just my thoughts. And so it is super powerful, especially when people witness this, right? They're like,
Mhm.
people could be listening to this podcast being like, I don't know about that. No, it happens every day.
Yeah.
Um, we can do this every day, but it's like, how we talk about, oh, misery loves company. Well, yeah, bad people will flock together. And I shouldn't say bad people, but negative people or negative thoughts will come together, just as positive thoughts, just as those that are, want to help and heal come together. So it's really interesting how that happens.
A lot of times I also will hear from families where the family dynamics, right? You've got one sibling that has one idea and another sibling that has another idea. And it just takes that one person to have the influence of shifting that mindset that hopefully can then impact how the rest of the family can have their lens on what's happening.
Oh, yeah. And if you take the average of two people, if you take someone who's a very high positive vibration and someone who's a very low vibration person, you put them together long enough, they will average each other out. Right. So it's like tuning forks. If you have two tuning forks and you have one at one frequency hertz and another one at another, you hit them both, you bring them close together, and they'll average each other out.
I just think the science behind that is so fascinating.
Yes, yeah, I know. And that's the thing, is I always remind people, this isn't hocus pocus, this is
Yeah.
science. It's called physics.
It is. It is. So, part of also what you do and what you've had experience in is there are different modalities. So, when you look at that health and wellness umbrella, can you tell us more about that? Like, what is all makes up that whole wellness picture?
Yeah. So when you think about like overall well-being, it's bringing awareness to your financial situation, bringing awareness to the physical body, to the energetic body, to the mindset, to your occupational wellness, right? Like your job, like what you go to every single day, in your relationships, right? So there's all these the food that you eat. So there's all these elements that a lot of times what happens is we have this reductionist approach in the US where we just focus on one thing. I've been in wellness for over 20 years. And when I first started out, I would just tell people to exercise as if that would solve all their problems. And then, in my late 20s, I realized, oh, because you kind of like, you have to eat healthy too, right? Like having babies and all of that. And it's like, okay, I can't just exercise my way out of a bad diet. And then into my 30s, I realized, okay, I'm eating decent, I'm exercising, and I'm still not happy. So it wasn't until then that I realized I had to work on my mindset. I had to work on my brain. And then I had to pay attention to these other elements in my life, because when we just look at weight loss as if that's going to solve everything, that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? And so it's really just like looking at all aspects of your life. And again, not looking for perfection in them, but giving them some attention is what we need. Like we have to give it some attention, because it's vital. It really is. And seeking out like the different modalities, right? Like, so I work with people with plant stem cells. I coach people. We use herbals. We use sauna therapy. We use theta guided meditation therapy, breath work. There's so many modalities and things out there that can support someone. But it's really just, I think the first step is really shifting that mindset to be open to what is possible, right? Then finding people and things out there that can support them in that. I want to feel good, so I'm going to do these things that truly help build me up from the soul level, from the cellular level, and then just keep diving into those arenas.
And cost can be such a factor. You talked about that financial health and wanting to be mindful of what we're spending and what our expenses are. And at times we're maybe helping support that family. Would you say that these modalities can be cost effective, or where does that align for people in the spending?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really big thing, because if you're paying for health insurance, that's very expensive. And then you're like, oh, but I want to do these preventative measures and I want to really start to shift. I think the biggest thing we have to recognize is that in Western medicine and our insurance companies, they're not going to cover these holistic health modalities. They call them alternative therapies, which I understand the high tech stuff I do is alternative, but ultimately, herbal therapy, all of that. That is like the original OG of
Yeah.
medicine. It's called plant medicine. That was here
How many
way,
years ago?
yeah, that was here way before Western medicine. So I think we need to, one, don't get discouraged and disappointed if your insurance company doesn't cover it. So that's first and foremost, right? But then it's like, well, hey, I make, $15 an hour or, whatever it is. And then I have all these people to support. So, okay, what can we do that's cost effective? First and foremost, we do not utilize our libraries enough. I know here where I'm located, there's actually this app. It's called Hoopla, and it connects with our local library. And you can get, I think it's like 3 audio books you can download to your phone. So it's just like Audible that Amazon has that you pay $14.99 a month for. And this is a free app with your local library, or your local library may have a different app. But going out and seeking that and getting the personal growth books, right? That doesn't cost you anything except for some time. The other thing you can do is connect with other people and set up like walking through nature, like setting up walks that you can do. This can be with coworkers, right? It could be on a 15-minute break and be like, hey, let's just go outside and walk around the building, right? Like getting outside, being in nature has been shown to lower cortisol levels, helps improve mood. Plus you get your sunshine with vitamin D. And again, that costs you nothing. And then, okay, so let's talk about nutrition, right? Because that's a big one that people talk about, oh my gosh, it's so expensive to eat healthy. Well, one, local farmers markets can be a great place to start. I have found that Costco is like one of my new favorite little spots, or Aldi's, because you have these organic choices. And depending on your family size, though, like my family, there's 4 of us. So going to Costco and we can get a big thing of organic baby spinach for $3.49. I get a big bag of apples that are organic for less than $5, but yeah, you have to have a Costco membership. So there's that. But there are opportunities and ways. And again, it's finding them, it's seeking them out because they will be there for you. I know Costco, you can get a 3.5, I think it's 3.5 pounds of organic blueberries that have been shown to help improve brain health, prevent dementia, Alzheimer's when you do a half a cup a day for a long period of time. And you can get that frozen at Costco for less than $10. And that's a lot less costly than, buying at, I don't know, like an Albertsons or a Vons or, the little 6-ounce blueberries for $3.99, right? So just finding the little ways to make it effective. And then the other thing is if you do have a local wellness center, like my place that I have here, I have different membership opportunities for people that are cost effective as well. And you can work with your local holistic practitioner too, and just see like, instead of saying, I can't afford this, go to that local practitioner and say, this is how much I can afford. What can you support me with this, $40 a month or $50 a month? And then, going in and seeing what apps are you paying for or what automatic payments are you paying for that you're not even using, right? Let's reallocate some of the money that's going out to fill ourselves up. So, different things like that can be really great. And then I think the last thing I'll share is if you do have a health insurance program, there's usually this thing called EPA assistant. So it's employee assistant program. So a lot of times these are already in your premium, and there are wellness resources within your already existing program that maybe you have access to, counseling sessions where you don't have to pay a copay for the first X amount, right? Like everybody's program is different. But look and see on the back of your insurance card, is there an employee assistant program? Are there different things that can help you in the wellness umbrella? And again, insurance may not pay for all of it, but there may be opportunity there. Local gym discounts through your insurance company. A lot of people don't know about things like that. So just check it out, do some digging.
That's really good advice. It's I think so many things exist that we don't even know we could have access to. So just the cause to think about that. And I love the idea of asking the question of those providers, like, here's what I can afford. How can you work with me on that? Because I think that they want to help people live their life to the fullest, and more often than not are willing to come to some solution together, to make that happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know I got a client from the Carolinas that called and she's like, I don't have the funds to do X, Y, and Z. And I said, what can you afford? And we worked out something where I could support her from afar, and she's going to get additional support for what works for her, right? Like when you go to a holistic health practitioner, trust me, we want to help you. Like it is so important to us. I mean, we have to keep our doors open and pay our bills
Yeah.
too, but here's the thing is I know by helping her that it's that compound effect and the universe is going to provide somebody else that maybe can pay my price and they'll pay it and it's fine. Like it's all good. Like we're here to help each other.
I'm so glad that you are here and have that encouragement for people just to think in a new way.
So I'm just excited for those listening. Even if you just take one little nugget, like just take one and commit to it for like a week and then just add from there. I call it the add-in method. And honestly, if you guys just want to email me info@happywholeyou.com, I actually created this add-in calendar where you just every week you write in the new thing you're adding and then you just look at your calendar, right? Like say week 1, I'm adding 16 ounces of water first thing when I wake up in the morning. Okay, you do that every day for 7 days. And say the next week you're like, okay, I'm going to add a 5-minute walk on my break. Okay, so now you're drinking the water, now you're doing the 5-minute walk. And then week 3, I don't know, say you're going to wake up and look in the mirror and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. So now you're drinking the water, adding the walk, you're loving yourself, right? And so it's just like a little tracker. You just print it out, it's a PDF, and it just helps you. And if you get to week 12 and you're like, oh crap, I haven't been doing X, Y, and Z. Okay, we'll start again. It's all good.
Yeah. People, go contact Anna Marie, visit her website. I want you to just recap by saying, okay, here's what you can do for people, because you offer so many different things and I want them to know what are all of those options.
Yeah, so I offer virtual consults, so holistic health consults with people. I do coaching with people. I also do like plant stem cell therapy with people. And what's interesting about plant stem cells is it sounds like it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And I was blown away when I found out like a 2-month supply of one remedy, maybe about $45. Like it's really cool. And then I do things like called inner voice therapy, where you send me a 30-second audio clip of your voice. It'll tell us the top 4 emotional blockages that are going on in the body, what organ systems are being impacted, healing colors for you. And then I send you audio that you can listen to and meditate to that's going to give you the frequencies that your body is missing. So there are things I can do remotely with people. Or, if you're interested in finding some of on the website, the Happy Whole You website, if you see there's this thing called a biocharger and you may not know what that is, or a beamer, there's these therapies, I can reach out and see in your area, like who's a practitioner that has those, right? And help connect you with them. So again, just explore and, know that there's different things out there for you and anything is possible.
Yeah. And what location or part of the country are you in generally? So if someone's in your area.
Yeah, so I'm in Bakersfield, California. We also have a location in North Carolina in Raleigh. So we have 2 locations, one on each coast.
Yeah. That's a good place to start. Thank you so much. I'm encouraged by that there's things that we can do, things that older adults and caregivers can focus on and think outside the box and know that there is real science behind those different modalities, and it can be really powerful for change.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.